Hey, what's going on, everyone? What, you thought I would have discussed Breath of the Wild 2? Did you not hear my reaction video?
Is it DLC or a new game? Yo, what is it?
Have you not seen my 1-year Breath of the Wild video? Did you not know that I consider Breath of the Wild to not only be my personal favorite game ever? Although, let me give another shout out to Panzer Dragoon Saga, because, although I consider, Breath of the Wild to be, my favorite game ever, like I said, always said, Panzer Dragoon Saga sits up there as well. But yeah, I also consider, Breath of the Wild to be, the greatest game ever made. Just my opinion, of course, calm down, Ocarina of Time fans or whatever, but, that game, Ocarina of Time is also perfection. But yeah, there's been a ton of videos and theories on Breath of the Wild 2, and that trailer caught everyone off guard, including myself. Of course, I'd like to get my own thoughts on it, but mostly I just like to talk about where a sequel of this game could go, and what I'd like to see, and of course, what you all like to see. So first, let's get started with this trailer and what I took away from it after watching it like a billion times, or mostly, like with all theories on such things, what I personally would like it to be teasing, I suppose. Just to warn you, I'll be using footage from previous and current Zelda titles, so so spoilers for those people who haven't played all Zelda games. I've played them all, so I'm going to be using footage from all of them. So spoilers once again. But anyway, I noticed through many videos that people seem to be focusing on the ghostly hand that seemingly is holding down who we think we've all concluded is the body of Ganondorf in his true physical form. And why not? That ghostly hand is clearly a major focus for the trailer, as well as the malice pouring out of what seems to be a chest wound on the body, which has then led everyone to believe that this might be the Ganon from Twilight Princess, which is fine, of course, and it makes perfect sense with all the evidence we've seen. But for me, my focus was later turned to when his head turns towards the screen and opens his eyes, as well as how the body is arched back, seemingly frozen in pain. And the more I watched this trailer, the more it reminded me of possibly one of the best moments in any Zelda game, which is the death of Ganon from Wind Waker. On the forehead of this supposed Ganon is a circle of fire. It's actually swirling. Now, most people look at this and just consider it to be jewelry. Similar to what Ganon has always worn in the 3D Zelda games. But as far as I can remember, this is the first time it's ever had this fire swirling within it. What if that's a wound where the Master Sword had been plunged into Ganon from, into the head of Ganon from Wind Waker? I mean, it's not the first time Ganon has been killed with the Master Sword shoved into his forehead, just like he got killed by Link in Ocarina of Time. It also reminded me of the one scar on the forehead of Demise, the Demon King from Skyward Sword. I mean, that's the only scar that's on his body. He's got no chest wounds. It's just like this cross on his forehead. The way Ganon in Wind Waker died, massive wound to the forehead and bent back in pain, reminded me of the image in the new trailer where this figure is bent back as well, as if in pain. And not only that, his clothes are pretty close looking to the long drapes worn by Ganon in Wind Waker. In both the past and present, Ganon, has been killed in like 2 different spots, his forehead and chest, and this new supposed Ganon seems to bear both of these wounds. But even more telling with the head wounds, even Calamity Ganon has this fiery spot on his forehead, where as the chest wound is non-existent. Where you'd think, if these Ganon blights were shadow forms of the true Ganon, perhaps or surely, they show similar important wounds on their true on their forms. It's actually, all the Ganon blights, including Calamity Ganon, have what is a mask covering their faces, with a single blue circle at its center, apart from Calamity Ganon, the final form of his malice, I suppose. This is this is nothing but thoughts and wishful thinking, to be honest. A part of me always wanted the Wind Waker story to continue on consoles, outside of like Phantom Hourglass, etc. Mostly because I find that the Ganon we had in Wind Waker has been by far the most interesting, story deep and story driven Ganon we've ever had. One who constantly remarked on the harsh winds of his home and how he hated the blessed lands of Hyrule in comparison. But even his laugh at the end was one not of just madness, but also one who had been driven to the point of defeat, where his hatred boiled into the realms of just wanting to destroy the very hope of the children, before him, even when, the Triforce, had finally been taken away from him. I found this Ganon, the way they spoke about him and what he said, to be vastly, more interesting than the Ganon from Twilight Princess. For me, Breath of the Wild has done one thing, and I think Nintendo wanted this from the start. It had essentially merged pretty much every Zelda game into its story in some way, but also at the same time gave Nintendo, I feel, the space to bring back the story of, say, Skyward Sword and Demise, back into the fold, and also perhaps cement the fact that there has only ever been one Ganon. And with them playing with large amounts of time, like spanning over 10,000 years, whilst including past stories into this current world. I said 10,000 years, and like the genie from Aladdin. 10,000 years would give you such a crick in the neck. That's just like we saw in the trailer, wasn't it? But this could also allow them to essentially create any story they want in the Zelda universe, but also still connect the story of Demise, the goddess Hylia, Ganon, and the chosen princess and hero. So what do I think Breath of the Wild 2 will do to continue the story, and more importantly, change the world of Hyrule, so we don't feel like we're treading familiar grounds. Although, even though we saw Hyrule, doesn't necessarily mean we're going to stay there. But I think that, they spent a lot of work on that Hyrule, so I think for the most part they will use a lot of it. But, one thing I noticed in the new trailer, when the castle starts to rise, is that we're on the Great Plateau, which lore-wise in Breath of the Wild, looks to have either been elevated out to the ground itself or landed there almost, but this is also a big theme in Breath of the Wild. The Sheikah Towers, the shrines, the giant mazes, etc., all rise out to the ground, or all have always been there, and in regards to the shrines, these are essentially, elevators down to a hidden world of perfectly preserved places, said to have been designed for the hero of legend. But I mean, these are pretty over the top places to make sure we got the right guy doing the job here. You know what I mean? But Breath of the Wild's ruins, above the ground, also tell their own tales and majesty and ruin, and even the whole story dates back to 10,000 years again. So the heroes and champions we saw from those 10,000 years ago on the tapestry, they're from a long time ago, completely different people, and a lot can happen in between that time. So, as we see, Hyrule Castle starts to rise, and literally it seems the whole of the castle starts to shake as well, and not just the castle, but the whole of Hyrule. That didn't happen when the Sheikah Towers rose out to the ground, or even those giant columns around Hyrule Castle itself. So this is a pretty big deal, to shake the whole land like that. What if this is the old Hyrule from Wind Waker, the one lost under the sea. Even in the lore of Breath of the Wild, I think in Zora's, the Zora domain, the Zoras and Hylians or whoever, built the massive, dams to stop Hyrule from being flooded again. What if somewhere in the timeline, the old Hyrule was resurrected with Ganon still sealed below, down there with the Master Sword, but it was removed or something, and a stone ceiling, Ganon crumbled away, giving birth to this new, to a newer Ganon, or the old one, one with, a fresh wound, raging with hate in his forehead after all that time. You saw, I mean, even in this Breath of the Wild, this Ganon, or at least the Calamity Ganon, doesn't have a single shard of the Triforce. Sorry, I completely lost my train of thought then. Of the Triforce, and he loses it in Wind Waker as well, because the king is holding the Triforce when he makes the wish to drown Hyrule. But at the same time, you also saw many structures, rise out of the ocean in Wind Waker, like the Tower of the Gods and even the Great Deku Tree. So it doesn't mean just because Hyrule's underneath the ocean, it doesn't mean nothing can rise back up, because we even saw that in Wind Waker, and those islands that are all in Wind Waker were essentially part of Hyrule. It's just a fun theory, of course, but we never know how the Master Sword always ends up, back where it does in front of the Great Deku Tree or in a forest, somewhere. And in Breath of the Wild, this land is riddled with Koroks. The only other time you have seen them outside of Wind Waker, and they play a big part in this game. Along with a wealth of other Wind Waker references, like the Tingle Islands, etc. Makar Islands, stuff like that. But of course, there are references from other Zelda games in Breath of the Wild. But given a time period of 10,000 years or more, any story could have taken place in between all these times. Perhaps Nintendo just want to solidify the story of Demise and Hylia, and how this leads to Ganon and the chosen princess and hero, whilst essentially ignoring any of the crazy theories or split timelines or, etc., because it was Skyward Sword that we had before Breath of the Wild, where Nintendo were like, right, let's try to actually create the start of all this craziness between Ganon and the heroes and the princesses. This is where I think we could possibly see whatever was below Hyrule, which in Breath of the Wild, which appears to be a lot. We could see much of this rise out to the ground further, and at the same time, this could cause massive change to the environments. Dams in Zora Domain could break, creating new inland seas. Mountains could split, much like the Julian Peaks, forming new valleys. And where some structures have risen out of the ground, others could begin to float in the air. Creating a new world of islands, Skyloft style, above Hyrule. So now we'd have two levels of an open world to explore, whilst also the holes created in the ground, from these rising structures, could form new cave systems, or once again new caverns filled with lakes with cascading waterfalls pouring, down into the earth. Maybe filled with both lava and water, as this could cause massive damage to Death Mountain as well, and change that. We've been in the same Hyrule, but one that has seen great change. Much like what happened to Azeroth in the World of Warcraft, during the Cataclysm. And with this, these structures rising up, we'd gain access to the underground world, we'd only visited in the shrines, and this is where the new temples could come into play. Come on the land, some in the sky, and some on the ground, and yes, another world could open up. Is one with underwater exploration, which is what we always wanted. Basically, the possibilities are endless. Some theories have mentioned time travel, etc., which we've seen in many Zelda games, but I prefer to stay in the future, for this one, and just continue moving forwards, and if need be, give a new mechanic, with that ghost arm ability, which I'm sure what all assuming is what we're getting, which would let us, maybe, I don't know, view two realms, one of death and and one of light or whatever, but not massively, so you end up having to explore two worlds, like a light and dark world. I think that's asking too much, but one that leads you to perhaps be able to see another dimension briefly, which could you can alter to change something in the light world or something like that. We could also easily reach the new floating platforms in the sky by new towers or gravity stones that could take you high into the air, hence giving you the use of the paragliding in play again, or make the return of the hookshot, which can grapple into virtually anything, or I tell you what, the ghostly hand itself can reach out and grab things, pulling Link up to places, lifting up and moving rocks, man. Okay, I'm starting to lose it now. This game, but like I said, it's just crazy random ideas. Either way, I'm beyond crazy hyped to see more of this game. The possibilities are endless, and I think whatever happens, based on what Breath of the Wild has already achieved, the sequel is going to blow us away. And I'm scared of what it might do to my life again. I utterly believe the physics will return and the weather systems, and it's going to be heightened to even more greatness. But anyway, let me finish this there. Because I've waffled on a bit here, and I will do more Breath of the Wild videos, of course, another time. But yeah, let me leave it there. Like I said, I could talk about this game forever. Let me know your thoughts, about my ideas, and of course, let me know your thoughts and ideas at the moment on Breath of the Wild 2, and any ideas you'd like to see come into the game, or just on a trailer, whatever. And of course, I'll reply to every single one of you like I do. And as always, thanks for listening. Take care at all, and peace.